Good evening, and welcome to Pressing Issues. Today is Sunday, March 28th. I am your host, Jason Diffendahl, and welcome to another episode. I would like to welcome my panelists here with me tonight. First, we have Heather Provost. And then we have Ashley Jasmer.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, there we go. And then we also have Spencer from Tokyo. Oh. Spencer's having...
So close.
Spencer's
So
having some
close.
technical issues, of course. So as soon as he gets here, he will be joining us. Anyway, thanks for tuning in tonight. A couple of housekeeping things we'll get to first while we give Spencer another minute. This is called stalling. Trying to get Spencer to give Spencer another minute to get here. Just put him in a frame. Yeah, I wish. First off, please press the like button. Whether or not you like us, just press the like button anyway. Just pretend it's like an all-purpose button. And I know a number of you have asked over... Somebody wants me to play Spike the Bee, of course. A number of you have asked when is our next DVC episode going to be. And we are absolutely working on getting one of those maybe within the next couple of weeks. So the other thought is next Sunday is Easter, and I'm thinking we probably should just take next week off. Because I don't know how many people will be around on Easter, and I don't know how many of my panelists will be around on Easter. So we might take next week off, and then we might come back after Easter. We'll probably have one show after Easter, because we'll have 2 weeks worth of news to cover, and then we'll do the DVC episode the week after that. So that is my current sort of plan for the next couple of weeks. I have to ask Tom if I can take a break. Well, Tom went to Dallas this weekend, so he got his little time off. So I think we're going to take a week off next week. But anyway, while Spencer's technology must be really having problems if it's taking him this long to get on, let's have a Jewish version of Park Center. Yeah. We have 45 likes. Let's get to 50. Let's even get to 50 likes before Spencer gets on. Actually, let's see how many likes we can get before Spencer gets here. The over-under is going to be probably 70. I'm going to guess 70. So let's see how many likes we can get till Spencer gets here. We'll just stall for a while. Actually, if you guys want Spike to Be, we'll play Spike to Be. How's that? Give Spencer a couple more minutes to get here. 50 likes for Spike the Bee. I need to sing a song like Spike the Bee. So I used to sing quite a number of years ago. We used to have the Christmas podcast parade, and every year we used to have a fake album that we did on there where we sang Disney songs. And so I sang Tomorrow's Child. I sang a bunch of other Epcot songs on there, and only WIGS members have access to those back episodes of the Christmas podcast parade now. So if you're not a WIGS member, you can't hear me singing. If you want to join WIGS, head over to patreon.com/WDWNT, and for $7 or more a month, you will have access to our podcast archives, including me singing.
And as someone who has heard it, is 1,000% worth it.
I thought she was going to say it's 1,000% worse than Eric.
No, it's fantastic.
I would say that too.
I miss the parade.
I miss the parade too. Emma has a brand new fancy microphone, so she can do Christmas songs for us this year. Perfect. I bet Emma's a better singer than I am, too. It's a B mandate. We're at 77 likes and still no Spencer. I'm going to play Spike the Bee for you guys right now, and then we'll come back with or without Spencer. So, here we go.
When I find myself at Flower and Garden, looking for some food to eat, I gotta get a spork with Spike the Bee. 58 pallets of unsold units standing right in front of me. Here for his 5th straight festival, Spike the Bee. Spike the Bee. Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee. Perfect for any food type, Spike the Bee. And while it's good for soup and chili, he's also perfect for poutine and Tupelo honey spoon bread, Spike the Bee. Plastic forks and spoons are wasteful, and they can't ever hope to be that versatile festival flatware, Spike the Bee. Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, yeah, Spike the Bee. For blood orange margaritas, Spike the Bee.
How do you eat that with a spork?
Spike the Bee. Spike the Bee, Spike the Bee, yeah, Spike the Bee. Disney hopes you'll finally purchase Spike the Bee.
Hey!
Spencer.
Can we hear him? We can't hear him.
Still can't hear him.
No, there you go.
I can't hear Jason.
Oh.
Because
I can't
I'm
hear Jason
muted.
either. Oh, there you
See,
go.
when I mute myself, Spencer comes. So there we go. But
Which
yay,
is
Spencer.
ironic, actually, because I actually enjoy listening to you talk. So,
Really?
yeah.
Huh. You're the first person that's ever said that to me, Spencer.
Aw.
Most people say they can't stand hearing me talk. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get on with the show. Now that we have our full complement of panelists, welcome Spencer from Tokyo. Spencer, what time is it in Tokyo right now?
It is 9, 11, 9, 10, somewhere about to there, a.m.
On Monday morning.
Yeah.
So
I come to you, as always, from the future.
That's right. Anything exciting happened last night or no?
It rained a lot, but I'm guessing that's really not what you're looking for. I sent Tom another box, so if you
Another
like
one?
Tom's Tokyo boxed ins, there's another one in the mail.
Holy smokes. We just got through 5.
Wow.
I just bought 3 more boxes that are over there, and I've got a roll of bubble wrap over by his stuff, waiting to send more boxes out. So keep watching on the Entertainment Channel.
I have my box from you, and I think Jill and I are going to do a boxed in with the box of Tokyo stuff you sent me.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I don't know if it's...
cool.
There's got to be something different in my box than in Tom's box, right?
There's a few things that are different. You guys have slightly different tastes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Tom didn't get that mug, did he? Do you remember?
No.
The really cool mug? Okay, because that really cool mug is like the coolest thing in the box. So I'm glad Tom didn't get it because people will be excited to see that. Anyway, all right, let's get on with the news. The first major piece of news to talk about today is the announced Disneyland expansion. Now, I'm sure that most of you have probably seen this news, and I am going to try to pull up the concept art here for you as soon as I can find it. This is actually, so obviously Disneyland has announced a number of expansion plans over the years. Originally there was going to be originally, back in the 90s, there was going to be Westcott. And Westcott was going to be built where California Adventure stands now, and it was going to feature a Spaceship Earth geosphere that was 3 times as big as Spaceship Earth in Epcot. And it was going to be gold. So that would have been the coolest thing ever. That didn't happen. Then Disney California Adventure happened, and it was underwhelming. And then sometime after Disney California Adventure, there was talk of a water park to be built across Harbor Boulevard on one of the parking lots that Disney owns, across Harbor Boulevard and south a little bit. And then what ended up happening was, over the course of time, as some of those older hotels on Harbor Boulevard went up for sale, Disney started buying up all the property. And so they ended up owning a number of pieces of property across Harbor Boulevard that used to be hotels. And what ended up happening then is that they proposed, this was two or 3 years ago, they proposed this eastern entranceway across Harbor Boulevard that would have been like a huge pedestrian walkway across Harbor that was elevated, and it would have effectively allowed people to bypass a lot of the businesses on Harbor Boulevard, and go right from like a bus stop right into Disneyland without having to walk past any of the businesses on Harbor Boulevard. So of course all of those businesses were up in arms about this. They called it the Eastern Gateway Project. So that ended up getting canceled. Then there was the next year there was a plan floated that would involve a brand new entrance from the western side of property, including a new hotel. So essentially where the Rainforest Cafe and ESPN Zone buildings and the AMC Theater sit would have been a huge new hotel that would have been sort of the anchor of the western side. People staying at the Disneyland Hotel would have been like second-class citizens behind this massive new hotel. And so that was proposed, and then eventually that didn't happen either. And so now we have this sort of really, really weird, I'm going to put it up, really, really weird concept art. And I call it weird because it extends Disneyland and Disney California Adventure westward, around and behind the Disneyland Hotel and Paradise Pier Hotel. It's to me, this is just incredibly odd. It's almost like the Blob, right? Like it's almost like the parks are the Blob, and the Blob is oozing westward, and there are hotels in the way, so it just kind of goes around them. And so, in a sense, it's kind of neat, because obviously the Paradise Pier Hotel right now, only the upper levels of the part that faces east can see anything into a park, but now you'd have the whole western side of the Paradise Pier Hotel able to see into some park areas. And of course the Disneyland Hotel, which now only has views of downtown Disney, would end up with much of the western half of downtown Disney, including ESPN Zone and Rainforest Cafe and AMC Theaters, all bulldozed and turned into some park lands. And so, this is I mean, they would have been bulldozed in that Western Gateway hotel expansion project that was planned a year or two ago. But this plan takes all of the basically all of the parking area between the Disneyland Hotel and the Mickey and Friends parking structure, which is a lot of surface parking for the Disneyland Hotel, and then a lot of the surface parking for downtown Disney, and turns that into some theme park lands. So this is a surprise simply because Disney owns this property, but they kind of own a lot more property on the eastern side of the Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. So to have an expansion plan that comes westward like this and sort of envelops the hotels is really interesting to me. I never would have expected this. It looks like Disneyland Drive, which is the main road to get to the Disneyland Hotel and the Grand Californian. It kind of looks like it's underground for a significant... I mean, it does tunnel under the walkway between the Disneyland Hotel and downtown Disney, but here it looks like it's going to be underground for a significant portion of this area. And there's passageways across Disneyland Drive from the California Adventure side, the very edge of California Adventure that's over near Silly Symphony Swings, and that the Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind over on that side. So there's a connection there to some of the lands across the street, and then it looks like there's a connection from essentially somewhere in Frontierland or Critter Country across Disneyland Drive over into whatever gets built on that side of the street. So it's really, I guess it's exciting. Any expansion plan is usually exciting. But I guess the question is, well, there's a couple questions. One is, how is access to the Disneyland Hotel and the Paradise Pier Hotel and the Grand Californian Hotel, access to those hotels looks like it's going to be rather difficult, because the main roadway that normally goes to those hotels is kind of going to be underground for some amount, and parking at those hotels, like all of those parking lots at those hotels, is now gone. It looks like there's a new parking garage to the west of the Disneyland Hotel where the convention center space is. There is a small parking garage there now, but I think it's only 2 or 3 levels for the convention space, and that looks like it's now going to be turned into a much larger parking garage. It looks like there's a parking garage directly behind Paradise Pier Hotel that's added. So, I guess in some ways, now the only people that need to go on Disneyland Drive are the ones that are staying at these hotels, simply because the downtown Disney parking lot is not going to exist anymore. So maybe it won't be that bad, but we'll see. What this does appear to do, and I know somebody mentioned this on Twitter, I think, is that it now gives you the opportunity to sell all of your hotel rooms as theme park view rooms, which naturally cost more, because you built a theme park around the hotel. So normally it's planned the other way around, and you build the theme park with an idea of the hotel. But they've just basically built a theme park around the existing hotel and can sell a lot more rooms as theme park view rooms now, which means the room prices will be more money. A lot of questions in the chat that this is only like example concept art, and they're trying to get some plans out there for Anaheim to look at to get the idea of expansion back in front of Anaheim, and certainly that's a question and has been ongoing for a long time now, as I mentioned at the beginning, that there were several other expansion plans that never saw the light of day. So of course this could be another one. Absolutely, this could just be a, one option of 10 that they'll slowly publish over the next, several months in order to show the city of Anaheim and the people of Anaheim, the kind of options that could be available for expansion. Another thing somebody said in the chat, does the rendering include the new construction of the DVC? It does. You can see there's a tower. If you look at where the Disneyland Hotel is, I'm sorry, I don't have a way to point on the graphic, but there is a tower, a fourth tower at the Disneyland Hotel area. That's the DVC tower, so that's there. So yeah, I mean that's clearly going to be under construction and probably even open before they break ground on this any kind of park expansion. So the DVC, I know for sure, is something that has been talked about for a while, simply because the DVC portion of the Grand Californian Hotel has a very, very small number of rooms. And it is the DVC that's the hardest to book anywhere of all of them, because there are so few rooms and there's no other DVC resorts at Disneyland. So it's really hard to book the Grand Californian DVC. So yeah, the DVC at the Disneyland Hotel, I think, is something that's sorely needed, and a lot of DVC members will be excited to see that come to fruition, just because it will make staying at the Disneyland Resort that much easier for DVC members. Let's see. Kim in the chat says, it looks so crowded. Disney World has all that land. Why not expand and make more parks there to help with the crowding? That's a great idea, and we've talked about that before too. I've always said that Star Wars Land should have been its own park, and it was a mistake to shove it into Hollywood Studios. David says the whole point of this is to get the Eastern Gateway built, which is possible too. Yep, for sure. I mean, they bring the Eastern Gateway project back, maybe make it look a little different, and say, well, here's a different option, and certainly there's a couple different ways to go.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I think I'm allergic to pressing issues.
Aww.
I haven't sneezed all day until we start the show. I don't understand it. But if Disney,
Or maybe just press releases that might not come to fruition.
maybe concept art.
Concept art that doesn't look anything like what'll actually get built.
That looks like
But yeah, I mean,
Speaking
certainly.
of concept art that does get built, by the way,
I hate that. I hate that logo.
Wow.
I hate that logo.
really? I
hate
like
it.
this. I think
It's
this is a cool
Alright.
shirt.
It's okay on a shirt, but I hate that sort of logo.
Well, it's the new Fantasyland shirt. That was the point.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So let's talk about what we see in this concept art, and what kinds of attractions might end up showing up here. A lot of people have speculated there's some sort of Marvel Land that's going in there, which wouldn't surprise me. But it looks also like there's quite a bit of possibility for some of the Tokyo Fantasy Springs attractions to make their way into this concept art. So let's talk to Spencer about that and see what he thinks.
I think that is full of crap. Honestly. First of all, Fantasy Springs cost $2 billion, and I do not see Disney investing that kind of money anytime soon. Second of all, something that I've kind of figured out through a lot of sleuthing is that in the last 20 years or so, when Disney has been designing exclusive and original attractions for Tokyo, because up until about 2000, we were just getting clones of everyone else's stuff. It wasn't until we opened Pooh's Honey Hunt that we started getting our own rides. Disney or OLC, I believe, makes Disney sign an exclusivity agreement for certain attractions at the parks here in Tokyo. So they can never build, or they have a certain amount of time where they can't build certain attractions at other Disney parks. They can eventually. Some of the terms could be really, 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 really long and prohibitive to the point where you would never build it by the time the agreement actually runs out. And I'm quite sure that with Fantasy Springs, that these new attractions are this is the biggest expansion in since Disney Sea opened in the history of the resort. I have no doubt that these are going to be exclusive for, oh God, I just throwing numbers, maybe 20 years, probably 15, 20 years sounds about right for them. Maybe more.
So, yeah, I mean, so the one thing you said is that Fantasy Springs cost $2 billion, which was actually half the price of Tokyo Disney Sea when it opened, but that was 20 years ago. But it cost $2 billion, and I wonder how much of that was money that OLC spent for development. That obviously, if Disney wanted to just clone attractions for Disneyland, they wouldn't have to pay for the development because those attractions are already done. I mean, I imagine it's substantial, but it's not going to be.
So my understanding is that, for example, let's talk about Beauty and the Beast. It's a trackless ride. Technology's been around for 20 years. You know, there's nothing that says that Disney can't go build another trackless ride. I believe what it does say is that they can't build the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast again at another Disney park. So whatever comes out of Fantasy Springs, the Peter Pan ride, the Tangled Boat ride, the new Frozen ride, which is supposedly different from Frozen Ever After, they can't just go and toss those in other parks because it's not the technology, it's the concept that is exclusive. Bless you.
So they could actually use the exact same ride system. I mean,
I would imagine so. Yes,
just with a different concept, right? So they can't build an Enchanted Tale with Beauty and the Beast, but they can basically rebuild that. They can do like they did with Indiana Jones and build a totally different attraction with a carbon copy of the ride system.
Yes, this is all, and disclaimer that this is based on a very limited understanding of what I've seen online about these kinds of dealings.
No, but it makes perfect sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense that if OLC pays for the development and design of these rides, they're not gonna want to let Disney just copy them. Chelsea just made a point in the chat that says Tron is a direct copy, which is true, but the development of Tron was paid for by Disney. It wasn't.
That's in Shanghai, not here.
Right, that's in Shanghai, and Disney owns half of Shanghai. So Disney actually developed that Tron attraction and owns it, and that's why they can clone it. But that's why they haven't been allowed to clone anything from Tokyo as much as people want and demand it.
I actually, and this is something, I know there's plenty of people who are going to be like, well, I want to ride Beauty and the Beast and I don't want to fly to Japan. We've talked on this show a lot about how the Disney parks are becoming really homogenous because they keep building the same things in every park. Mm-hmm. I think it's great that there's certain rides that they're legally not allowed to build.
Oh, I think it's fantastic too.
It keeps things unique, and it gives you a reason to come to Japan.
And I think the key point is not that people want them to clone Japan attractions in Florida or California. It's that they don't want clones. I don't think they actually really want clones. I think what they want is attractions of the same quality level that are different. And it's not that we want clones of what Tokyo gets. We just want attractions that are so high quality that they would be on the level of a Tokyo attraction. And instead we get something like Slinky Dog Dash.
Well, yeah, I think there's people that do. Sorry, I think there are people. I think there's people in both camps. I think there's people that just want the quality, and then I think there's people that are not fans of flying, are afraid to fly for that many hours, and don't want to have to travel to another country that would want a straight up clone.
I
but
will
I
tell
agree
you
with both
that
of you.
Flying to Japan sucks so much. It's the least favorite thing about me in the U.S.
whine so much
I will
about
do it one day. But here's my... So I actually poked around the Disneyland Forward website. I think part of the reason why this concept art is so zoomed out and so vague is because if you actually like read the FAQ and everything, they throw out Frozen and Peter Pan and things as examples.
Zootopia.
But and Zootopia, they don't actually commit to anything. No. And if you read the FAQ, they make that abundantly clear. I think it's all just them trying to use the power of PR. People want these things. So because, I mean, it's really a political campaign. It wasn't like a press release, like 100%, this is a thing that's moving forward. They're having to go before the city and completely rezone that area from what it's currently allowed to be used for. Yeah. And that's where their strategy is right now. So I think they're just throwing anything at the wall, like, sky's the limit. We could do anything with this property, but you got to help us get the city to agree to it first.
Right.
I mean, they really threw a bunch of this. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
They threw just a bunch of concept art, I think, in there, really. Like, as fast as possible. Just, what projects
like,
do we know people would want? Okay. Yeah. We'll throw in Fantasy Springs and the ropes course from Shanghai and Zootopia, and it'll look cool. Put it in the concept art.
Right. So
it's all random, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
And I feel like, too, that Anaheim is just... I think they're using the pandemic, I think, to their advantage. Anaheim is really vulnerable right now. That economy is, a mess. We've been closed. I'm not in Anaheim, in LA, but, California's been closed for so long, and that city is struggling. So I think they're saying, like, well, guys, we could do this, and we'll help. And now they're going to, see the idea of the economy booming. And I think, what Ash said, it's political right now. It's so random.
And they
I don't honestly,
I'm
excited about it.
I was reading more about it this afternoon, and like the city of Anaheim this year, I think is projecting to operate at 180 million or 108. I'm a little dyslexic, but it's over $100 million deficit. And like the city council just recently this week approved to allow the city to borrow up to $210 million. So again, I think this is all political, especially when you reflect back to 2018 when they were trying to build the luxury hotel and they were fussing with the city of Anaheim and all the wages and the taxes, and the city withdrew their tax. Not exemption, but it was like a rebate, I think is what it was, that they had some kind of agreement that
10 or 20 years
that fell apart.
Taxes. Yep.
And then Disney said, well, fine, we're just not going to build another hotel then.
And Anaheim and Disney have been butting heads.
They've been
butting heads for
decades. Interesting thing. For decades, I remember when we lived out there, it was awful. Like, they were constantly in the news, like, sniping at each other. Like, that was the whole thing about the fireworks, and, fireworks moved from, like, weekdays to weekends only and stuff like that. But now, ever since they've been closed for a year, I think it's given Disney the upper hand. The city has realized how much they actually need Disney, how much they get in revenue, in taxes, in tourism from Disney being there. And it is a very different bear and a very different relationship than it was even 2 years ago when that fight happened about the hotel. Now you have the mayor coming out and saying, we're amenable to this. We're open to it. He wrote open letters to the governor begging them to let Disneyland reopen. Like that. Yeah. That never would have happened.
The relationship.
No. Yep.
I think the relationship is a little better because they had that common enemy. You know what I mean? Anaheim and Disney were both like Newsom, yeah. And so I think they kind of bonded a little bit over that. And also, so many of those small businesses that do well because Disney's there. The little restaurants, the little shops, like
Captain Kids.
But I mean, yeah, but
This is true.
I think it's true. A lot of people hated Disneyland being in Anaheim, even the small businesses and all, and they ripped on it all the time. And now they've realized, I mean, is Disneyland perfect? No, Disney's not a perfect employer. They're not perfect. But they realize just how much they actually mean to that city.
Yeah, Christopher said in the chat, Anaheim needs Disney more than Disney needs Anaheim. And I think Anaheim didn't know that and didn't realize that 2 years ago, but now they know. It's absolutely hit home that that they need Disney more than because Disney as a company, with Anaheim being shut down for a year, has fared quite well. Anaheim, with Disney being shut down for a year, has fared horrendously. And so, yeah, I think Anaheim finally gets it that, you know, they need, and they certainly have a common enemy, which makes them, you know, more, at least they're on the same side, of the same side of the table when they come to complaining.
Something else to note, I think, is that this definitely isn't going to last forever. They are, at some point, they're all going to forget that they were closed and then be like, well, we're mad at Disney again, so it's important that Disney strikes while the iron is hot.
Disney's got to get this right. And if they can get the zoning, like Ashley said, if they get the zoning and everything in place now, they don't have to build this for another 10 years. They just have to
I don't think they will.
They just have to have the approvals from the city to do it, and then they can do it on their own timeline.
Yeah.
I've seen people, I think, floating... I've seen people floating that this is like, oh... Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't think they're gonna. Oh, that's right. I don't think they're gonna get the approvals. I like when they announced it, and people were like, "Are you so excited?" And I was like, "Not really," because I don't think they're gonna get the approvals. I don't think. I mean, what was that big huge thing when they had? What was that ride? That Maliboomer. They made them put like the shields on everything because the residents nearby did not want to hear any screams or any noise coming like near their home.
Maliboomer was my favorite.
I love the Malibu.
I loved it too. It was my favorite ride in that whole park.
It was great.
Yeah, but those residents.
Hello, soaring.
They weren't having it.
I mean, no. I hear what you're saying, Heather, and again, 2 or 3 years ago, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. There's not a chance in hell that Anaheim would have ever.
Right.
But at this point, I think even if the residents don't want it, because again, the mayor has gone on record in the OC, whatever that newspaper is, that he's amenable to it. I think there's been 1 or 2 city council members, that have come out and said that they're, at least open to talking about it. I don't think they're going to be able to shrug the potential income. I mean, just from construction and taxes and everything. I mean, they're going to need that money because the reality is they're looking at least $100 million loan just for this year to make up a deficit. Which that's money that's going to have to be paid back somehow by somebody. What better way than to get this through and have Disney pay for it in impact fees and taxes?
Yeah, which is why it's not a coincidence.
Does anyone here or in the chat know how much tax revenue Disneyland brings in every year? I'm kind of curious about that.
I mean...
Well, I know... 3 years ago, it was like $275 million that they were fighting over with that tax rebate or whatever it was for the hotels. So, I mean, that's just the hotel.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a pretty penny.
So they will, and the reality of this is very much, this is the silver bullet, I think, for Anaheim, because if they have this $100 million deficit, 100 million plus, however much it is, and they've figured out how desperately they need Disney. With the amount of money that not just reopening Disneyland, but expanding it further and allowing for more people to visit will bring, this is a zero. There's no reason for them to say no. Honestly, there really isn't.
Because again, you're talking at least one more hotel. More restaurants, more shopping, all of those things will generate tax revenue for the city. And I don't think that that's something that they can turn their nose up at like they could several years ago.
$5.7 billion a year. Owen Googled it.
Thank you, Owen.
Is that
Jesus,
like total
$5
or just
billion
for Anaheim,
a year?
Owen?
I don't know if that's total or not, but he Googled it. So, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I'm not surprised it's a couple billion because it's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm just curious.
And so, and also, you look at Anaheim, and the stadium's closed too, right? So the two biggest things that bring people to Anaheim are Disneyland and the stadium, and both were closed last year. So,
yeah,
it's basically Anaheim is living without its two largest taxpayers.
and that's been a reality. I feel like in every city with a Disney park in it. I'm sure. I know here in Japan, in Urayasu had a huge deficit last year because even just for 4-month closure, with low capacity and such, Disney is the only thing in Urayasu that pays this huge tax bill for them, and they faced losses, I think, in the hundreds of millions because Disney was closed for 4 months and they could only let 5,000 people in a day or 20,000 people in a day, etc., instead of however much normal capacity is.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I think, and when Jason was explaining it and showing the concept art, a lot of people asked, well, why aren't they finishing Epcot and why not Tron and all these things, and they're announcing this. Again, I think it's all just PR to get the zoning changed. I don't think they're going to build anything for at least another 10 years. But they're striking while the iron's hot, and they have the PR and the backing of City Council to get the zoning done. Because that'll be...
And there's been, I think...
forever. They can decide later what they actually want to do. They just need that mixed use to be able to do what they want. And I think that's also why they're not committing necessarily to anything. I mean, there was concept art alluding to a Jacques Lindsay's Hangar Bar, again, Zootopia, Peter Pan, all of these things that clearly people and Disney fans are going to want. And I think they're just throwing whatever they can stick at the wall. I think the only thing for sure that will happen eventually is the hotel.
Yeah. And another point hotel? That I didn't...
Which hotel are you talking about, Ashley?
There's the little plot of where they're basically moving Disney Springs to. Yeah, they're building a small hotel there. I don't know if it's a DVC hotel. I don't remember. But there's a small hotel over on that other, I guess on the eastern side.
Okay. Yeah.
That they're going to put a hotel
at. This is another thing that people don't really think about a lot when we talk about expanding Disneyland versus Disney World. Right now, Disneyland is a 2 to 3 day destination. You spend 1 to 2 days at Disneyland and you spend a day at California Adventure and you're done. And the Disney company has for years, if not decades, been trying to make that longer and longer and longer. They want it to be they want your whole vacation to be at Disneyland.
That was the idea behind the water park.
Mm-hmm.
And they already have that in
Right. They have
it in Florida. I think 25 or 30 years ago, when they opened Animal Kingdom, they figured out that opening more parks, after about a week, people don't stay longer. They just change how they use their time. A 5th park at Disney World isn't going to fix that. And, there's, of course, the possibility of finishing rides and finishing Epcot and making Epcot a full park again. That should be done. But
yeah, that will absolutely... Epcot will be done before this gets off the ground.
It doesn't have anything to do with this conversation about Disneyland's expansion.
Right.
And another thing, I think I saw someone on Twitter floating that this was like an expansion for the Olympics in 2028. That's not going to happen. There's no time to concept all of it and budget it and develop new attractions or choose what they're going to port from Shanghai.
So a couple things. Well, Drew said in the chat, Disney tried to buy Knott's before Cedar Fair bought it. Disney tried to buy Knott's for years and years and years and years and years. And Knott's wouldn't sell to Disney because they were worried about what Disney would do to Knott's. And then what Cedar Fair did to Knott's was exactly what Knott's was worried about Disney doing. But yeah, the concept behind making your vacation longer at Disneyland, the water park was key to that, because the water park would add a third day to your trip, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, is that because this isn't a third park, it's just expansions of the two parks that exist. I don't know that this would add a third day. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more stuff to do in the days you have, but if people look at it, they're not looking at it as a separate park, so they might say, well, I mean, people always say, well, you need a day for Disneyland and a day for California Adventure, and then if you have a third day, go back to Disneyland. That's pretty much how it works. I don't think that would change with this expansion.
It could. It could make California Adventure join Disneyland in you need 2 days for this park.
It could be, yeah.
It could become a 4-day trip.
But here's the other thing to remember. It's not, like, yes, they have out-of-town people come. And a lot of out-of-town people who travel in from out of state, at least, from what I know of, still typically come for at least 5 to 6 days, if not a full week. Because, I mean, see? But
you spent 2 weeks just going to Disneyland?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of people, their demographic is more local. I think they just need the flipping space to hold people. And they want to maximize capacity. I mean, they were already having problems with overcrowding. I mean, so much that they were, before COVID even happened, they were trying to figure out what to do with their pass holders because there's just too many of them.
Yeah.
So I think really it's not so much about enticing people who travel there to stay longer. I think it's just they absolutely positively need more space.
I
think it's two birds.
True.
It's both.
Well, I personally, I think the travel is just a bonus. I think they're more worried about space. I think they're more worried about space, and they know that there's a vast, because they even allude to it on the forward page, that, that they want to be able to create new things without having to start tearing out beloved attractions. So especially at Disneyland, for a lot of Disney people, especially in California, is considered sacred. Like, you can't touch a whole lot without people getting up in arms. Like, Fantasyland is pretty much a no-go. Really the only thing that people want you to fix out there is Tomorrowland.
Actually, just the
well, yeah, that.
I think every park except Paris has a Tomorrowland that needs to be fixed.
Paris doesn't have a Tomorrowland at all, so there you go.
So I really do. I think this has more to do with adding capacity and being able to do new things that will keep people coming back.
It is absolutely a park capacity.
And giving them areas that they can play with that people don't consider so sacred. I mean, I think that's why they've changed more of DCA in the past 15 years than except for Star Wars. What was the last new thing that they added to Disneyland itself? Until Star Wars.
What did they add? I mean,
was it Indy or
Winnie the Pooh? No, it was the Winnie the Pooh ride.
The Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, it was Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, it was Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, and then taking away, and then what was it? Whatever took away, whatchamadinger?
Yeah, that.
The People Mover.
Nothing took
that thing.
Rocket rods.
Rocket rods. So, I mean, they haven't really... I mean, when you think of how much has changed at California Adventure, and that park is only... we just had the anniversary.
Submarine voyage.
Yeah, but that was just an overlay. It wasn't really like a change.
They did
like something brand new.
And credit coaster.
Yeah. But I mean, you think about how much...
Well, that was at DCA, not at Disneyland.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, they have played around with DCA far more than they can play with Disneyland. I think they need and want more room to play, and they need the capacity.
The reason they've been playing with DCA is because it was a broken park in the first place, and they needed to fix it. Because Disneyland was already fine.
I will say this. After they redid it in 2013, they should have said, that's it. Don't touch it. It was great. It was wonderful. And then they screwed with Paradise Pier.
Yep.
And I will never forgive them for that.
Yep.
I'm so sad I never got to see Paradise Pier as it originally was.
It was wonderful. After they reopened it, got it done and everything in 2012, it was so cute, and the Silly Symphony swings were my favorite. And then they screwed them up again, got rid of that stupid orange, and had a really adorable classic attraction. But no, DCA can't have nice things. So here we are.
I mean, the swings are still there.
I love DCA.
But aren't they like Woody and Jesse themed now? Or am I wrong? I thought they rethemed them to Woody and Jesse.
I mean,
they're not the Silly Symphony swings anymore.
Oh yeah,
it's just the music.
And this is another thing I think people said they saw in the concept art that they were talking about. I think someone said they saw Toy Story Land in the DCA area of the concept art, which is the last thing that any park, let alone California Adventure, especially needs.
People
because they already have
burst
Pixar.
into flames.
I think people will burst into flames if they build a Toy Story Land in any park. There's already what, 4 Toy Story Lands, and they're all trash. I think if they build another Toy Story Land, people are just going to explode at this point.
Actually, the chat is saying that the swings are still the Silly Symphony.
I saw
swings,
that. That actually makes me very happy.
And it's
it was
King
the carousel that was
Carousel, which was a fantastic carousel.
Which was also really cute.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes it's a little better, but it still makes me really angry that they touched that because they were really cute. It was perfect, just the way it was.
His face on the fun wheel.
Oh, and we're getting the
Mickey
and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Yeah, but you don't want that.
Well, okay.
No,
Completely side conversation. You do.
It fits better in Toontown than it does.
You want it for capacity reasons.
In studios.
That's all you want it for.
One, you want it for capacity reasons. 2, you want it because it fits a lot better in the corner of Toontown than it does at the very center of Hollywood Studios. That's another conversation.
Yep.
I haven't been to Disneyland in 20 years. I'd like to go. I'm hoping to go this year or next year sometime. These local parks that are popular, which is basically Tokyo and regular Disneyland, they are starved for space, and they always need more space. They always want to raise capacity. They obviously want to raise revenue, which comes hand in hand with raising capacity. This is important, and to circle back and kind of close this off, I really think there's no way the city of Anaheim's going to say no. It might take them some time. They might twiddle their thumbs for a little bit just to make it look like they thought about it, but I don't think there's any way they can say no.
Yeah. Heather, what do you think about local politics, since you're closest in terms of how much Anaheim it can push back at this point?
I mean, I think they are in a desperate kind of situation. So if there is any shot of them ever getting it pushed through, this would be it. If it doesn't go this time, it never will.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's accurate.
But you have seen that
Penguin
relationship
projects
soften. You've seen it soften.
Absolutely soften. Yep.
Because it used to be just but the pandemic changed a lot of that.
Penguin Projects is Hong Kong. I'm talking about popular local parks, not the ones that nobody goes to.
Hong Kong is a popular park, but only for the non-locals, and the problem is not enough non-locals go there. Hong Kong's a fantastic park. I love Hong Kong. No,
it is. The point I'm trying to make is about these popular parks that already have capacity issues.
Yeah. Hong Kong doesn't have capacity. Well, Hong Kong has crowd issues. The crowds are too low. Yeah, Drew says I'd rather go to Hong Kong than Paris. I'm almost I could be on board with that. Paris has a couple unique things, but Hong Kong is really, really... I love Hong Kong. It's great. What do you think Disney would do if the Anaheim decisions don't go their way? That's a good question.
Throw a fit. They'll just throw a fit again, like they always do. They'll try and find some way to make it turn back in their favor.
Well, I mean, I think they have a couple of options, right? Like, at this point, there's probably enough locals that are hurting because the city is hurting. You know, that the whole, the whole emphasis of people not wanting Disneyland expansion, so close to their house or whatever, those people might be rethinking things. And if the people rethink things and then elect people to, the city government that think differently than the past regime has, it certainly is possible that they will get people in Anaheim government that will be more amenable to this any sort of Disneyland expansion. So I think this is, and we've kind of said this is a, probably a multi-year sort of proposal going, and it certainly is possible that the city government in Anaheim could change over the course of time and be more likely to allow something like this. So that's, I think that's probably, if there's any kind of pushback from the city, that's kind of the way it's got to go for Disney to get anywhere, is they have to, and I mean, Disney could absolutely get involved with politics and can, put up advertisements to, vote out the local government that didn't let Disneyland open or didn't want Disneyland to open or whatnot, or, all the cast members that are out of work. They could certainly play some dirty politics and convince the voters in Anaheim that they need new faces in the local government to be able to approve something like this. And I think that's very likely to happen.
A lot is going on behind closed doors, that we would never be privy to. But they definitely threw down the gauntlet with this one, I think. So, and have shown that they're not really, they're not. They have no issue with taking it to like the court of public opinion. So I think that they'll play it out, publicly.
But again,
this is Disney.
And that's true. And I guess if they don't get their way, I could see it going that way. But I think right now, again, at least the tone of like the Disney of that website and everything kind of makes it sound like they already have city council's more or less support. They just want the community behind it so that the city council feels comfortable actually voting for it and doesn't have to worry about their political position. Because it's all about, I mean, that website says, I don't know how many times, we're all about working with the city to develop what's best for the city. And we just, we want to rezone to be more conducive with the changing times. And, basically a parking lot isn't going to generate revenue for anybody. And so I think at least at the moment they're playing, again, they're playing very nice with the city, and the city's playing nice with them. So,
well, I mean, they have to play
like that way. Though. It always starts like that with Anaheim and Disney, though. Like it'll start.
Well, that's true.
I mean,
and we're also talking years away. It's going to take so many years to build the blur of that concept art. I mean, it's going to take years.
Well, I think if I had to guess, I would imagine that they're hoping to get the rezoning pushed through as quickly as possible, and then they'll finalize the details of what, because again, they're not specifically asking for theme park use. They're not specifically asking for dining or retail or hotel. They're asking for multi-use.
Right.
So,
and underground tunnels too that they were talking about, like walking underground. That might be more pleasing to residents. Who knows?
Yeah. And, there were allusions to, major investment in the city as far as infrastructure goes to lessen the impact and do, newer updated studies for the community. So I think, they've definitely thrown down the gauntlet big time.
Locally, they get on the ground and they, with the residents and the communities, I think the better shot.
Yeah, I think obviously Disney can't do anything without the city's backing, right? Because they've tried repeatedly.
Correct.
And if the council shuts them down,
they can't.
So they have to say they want to work with the city because they can't get anywhere otherwise. What they have to do is make sure that the city wants to work with Disney, because if the city council is more concerned about getting reelected, it's all about what are people going to say? What do I need to do to get reelected? And if the answer is vote for Disney versus vote against Disney, that's what they'll do. I mean, that's simply how politicians look at things, is what do I need to do to get reelected?
And I'll say caveat, it was over 10 years ago now. But like I said, I have very vivid recollections of, in the past, they've had no problem sniping at each other. Even when they weren't, necessarily fighting about something, they had, in local interviews and things like that, they were very dirty and nasty to each other, whether they had an actual issue to fight over or it was just, it's Tuesday, let's ask Disney what they think about the city, or vice versa. So, I mean, hopefully it's moving in a more positive direction.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a direction we could go if we're desperate. Just a really quick thing. I think if we're really desperate for content, we could just call the city of Anaheim one day and be like, hey, what do you think of what's going on with Disney? It'll be a great headline for WDWNT.
Sure, absolutely.
Random Thursday. Nothing happened today. We need something to talk about.
Yep.
I mean, it could look really good, too. It could be a great PR thing that Disney, swoops in and saves the city of Anaheim. So gets them out of,
well, that's what they want.
huge debt.
I mean, that's what they want to... That's what they want it to appear like, for sure, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's switch topics a little bit here, and talk about the job posting for principal fireworks designer.
I know. I hope I get it.
Yeah, no, I turned in my resume last week. They haven't told me anything yet. I don't know what to do.
Just go here and go there. There you go.
When I was a kid, I used to buy fireworks and light them off all the time. I think that qualifies me too.
Perfect.
But let's talk about the background of this, because here's what I think is happening. If we talk about major fireworks shows that Disney puts on, we have Wishes, we have Disneyland Forever, we have Believe at Disneyland, there's Fantasmic in Tokyo, there's Disney Dreams.
Fantasmic in Tokyo.
It was Fantasmic. Disney Dreams in Paris, Ignite the Dream in Shanghai. There's something all of those shows have in common. And also some of the non-fireworks shows like World of Color, and let's see, World of Color, Paint the Night. There's something all these shows have in common. And I want to throw it out there in the chat to see if, well, actually, somebody in the chat already kind of figured out what I'm talking about. The thing all those shows have in common was that they were all designed by Steve Davison. Steve Davison has worked at Disney for a long, long time. And in 2003, he was moved from Disneyland Entertainment into Walt Disney Creative Entertainment, and then into Imagineering in 2003 as the vice president for parades and spectaculars, or chief creative or something along those lines. So Steve Davison has been involved with parades and fireworks at Disney for a long, long time. And so I said Disneyland Forever, World of Color, Mickey Sensational Parade is in this list, Wishes is in this list, Festival of Fantasy is in this list, the Fantasmic in Tokyo, Dreaming Up, Happiness is here, right? Paint the Night in Hong Kong, and Ignite the Dream in Shanghai. Steve Davison has been doing a lot over the past 30 or so years with creative entertainment at the Disney parks, especially parades and nighttime spectaculars. Now, you'll notice there's actually one thing in that whole list of things that I was mentioning that's missing from the list of Steve Davison accomplishments. Anybody know what that is? Let's see if the
Illuminations, reflections of Earth.
Well, that's older than. That's before
Oh.
Steve even worked in Imagineering. Steve was still working at Disneyland Entertainment at that point. No, not
I thought this was going to turn into like an Epcot show where
No,
Jason was going to go and valiantly defend Illuminations as he
Nope.
always does.
Nope, this has nothing to do with Illuminations. But there are actually two things missing from the list of Steve Davison accomplishments that are sort of obviously out there. Happily Ever After.
Mickey's Mixed
CJ
Magic.
got one. Happily Ever After. And I'll give you the other one, Epcot Forever. Steve did not work on Happily Ever After. He was not a part of that. That was a third-party developed show. And he also didn't work
That
for Epcot
explains a
Forever, which was also a third-party developed show. And so...
Wait, did he work on Rivers of Light?
I don't
I find that
think so.
difficult to believe.
He didn't work on River. It's not in his list of things, no.
That makes me feel better. Okay.
So the question in my mind is what is Steve's role at the Walt Disney Company? And I haven't heard of anything that indicates that he's leaving or has left or whatever. But he obviously hasn't been hands-on involved with some of the most recent nighttime spectaculars. And the question is why? And the question is, well, if he wasn't involved, was he at least sort of part of the the main point of contact for these third parties that did develop shows like Happily Ever After? Most people like Happily Ever After and think it's a really good show, and are somewhat surprised to when they find out that actually Steve Davison didn't do that show. It's the first fireworks show at the Magic Kingdom that he hasn't done in a long time. Because Wishes was around for 15 years almost. So the question is, why do they need a new fireworks designer? What is Steve Davison doing? And what's going to happen to Steve? And basically, what's going on? So the question is, is Steve going to sort of be like the executive producer and oversee this new person? You kind of have to figure if you're going to be a principal fireworks designer for Disney, you're going to work under Steve, right? And so
I would imagine.
My hope is that this new person works under Steve and starts doing the in-house design of nighttime spectaculars instead of them going out to third parties like Happily Ever After did. That's my hope. Because I don't think Steve Davison, he hasn't left yet. I don't think it would be good at all for him to leave without having a sort of replacement lined up for him. And he's been there for so long that I don't know who else there is under him. So I hope that this person they're hiring is, sort of the next main fireworks person that Disney has. I hope that they start doing in-house design of shows again, because their last third-party ones have been they've been underwhelming as far as Epcot Forever is. Like I said, some people like Happily. I don't love it.
I love that show.
But yeah, some people do. It's not one of my favorites. So I hope that they're bringing back. I do hope that they're bringing back the design of nighttime shows and spectaculars in-house. Certainly it's also very bad that Walt Disney World does not have a nighttime parade anymore. So I know this is a fireworks designer. Maybe by designing fireworks that frees up Steve Davison to design another nighttime parade or something. Or, I don't know, just give us Paint the Night. But
Do we know whether Harmonious is being developed by a third party?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
I believe it is.
That would explain the Stargate.
That would
Great.
explain the
Do you-
Stargate and the tacos, yes. Because I don't
Do you know
think
if it's
anyone...
a consulting position? Is it a consulting position or a full time? I didn't see when I applied.
I don't know.
I think it's full time.
I think it's full time.
I don't.
Is it?
That's the impression that I got when I read it.
I'm curious to see what we have. 2 new nighttime spectaculars on 3, actually, I think, but one of those is a few years off because Paris is getting its big expansion, and they're going to do something at Studios, I'd imagine, with the lake. But right now, Harmonious is in development, although we already know that's third party. Shanghai's getting a new fireworks show for its 5th anniversary. I think they just said that today, actually. And believe Sea of Dreams is coming sometime this year to Disney Sea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious with the last 2 whether Disney is developing those shows or not.
Yeah,
Don't know.
I don't know.
I know OLC hasn't shied away from using non-Disney companies because that's Bravissimo was developed by some European company called ECA2 in France.
Yeah.
I don't know what Shanghai would do, though, honestly. I can't imagine what they're going to do for their show. Hong Kong's getting a new show, too, actually. I'm really curious what's going on with Steve. If he hasn't been present, you said, for Happily Ever After. He didn't do Epcot Forever. The last new nighttime show was, Celebrate Tokyo Disneyland, I think, in 2018? I think that was the last new nighttime show. And I know Steve worked on that. But other than that, I don't know.
So is it maybe
Might
just
be
that he
executive in
was
charge.
spread too thin?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think
Yeah.
it is.
Because I mean, if he's over everything, like parades and entertainment and all that,
he's
jazz,
getting old too. He's
Right.
And
worked at
that too,
Disney
and they
since
may wanna train
1981.
Yeah, and they may be wanting to train his replacement. I don't wonder, again, maybe he's spread too thin, and maybe they were trying to sub out some of the work, and that was just, even if Steve was kind of the main point of contact, I mean, Happily, it's cute. Like Jason said, like, I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it. It's just, I will forever love Wishes. I mean, that's my fireworks show. And there's nothing against Happily. It's cute. It's all right. I don't know. There's something about it to me that makes it difficult to form that same connection that you got with shows like Wishes.
Absolutely.
It doesn't feel quite as like personal. I don't know. But anyway,
it just doesn't make the connection with me. I know it does with some people.
Yeah, like
it
it's a
just doesn't
cute
with
show. Yeah. But I wonder, so that one was, that one overall was very well received. Overall.
Yeah, it was.
Like, it was. And so I think they were like, all right, well, this one worked and went really well, and we didn't have to front a whole lot of the cost to develop that show and pay all these people. Like, we paid a fee for it, but, you know, testing and all of that was probably wrapped into whatever third-party development deal they had. And then as they've gone on with this third party... Yeah, as they've gone on with these third parties that are developing these shows and maybe using technologies that these third parties have developed, the return on investment has progressively gotten worse. Like, Rivers of Light was delayed, and it was junky and clunky, and it was not great and had to be reworked a bunch. And then you had Epcot Forever that everybody hated. So I don't wonder if maybe they've seen the light and Steve was spread too thin, and they're like, all right, well, now we need to bring this back in-house for the next round of nighttime shows. And we need to get Steve to train people before he's actually ready to retire.
Yeah, I think, I think that's what it is. I hope that's what it is. Because without Steve, there's kind of, this is going to be, I think, a dark age for, I think we're already in a dark age for Disney nighttime entertainment. But once Steve leaves,
probably.
Yeah.
With live stuff.
But once Steve leaves, then it's absolutely in the dark ages. So yeah, I think that's what I'm hoping, is that this is going to be the person that replaces Steve eventually. And I don't want to see.
Speak for yourselves and your crap entertainment.
I mean, I don't want to see Steve go, but obviously he's been around for a long time, and he's going to want to retire at some point, and so
someday, yeah.
You know, it's absolutely.
But I mean, they could also just be bringing in consultants like they do with all of the, the live shows. They'll bring in consulting directors that are just independent contractors to put up the shows.
But
and then
see, I think if they were going to do that, they'd already have people in mind, and they would have just brought in a consultant. I don't think they'd be advertising for a position.
Right. That's what I think too.
I don't know.
I think that leans more towards they're trying. Yeah.
I will say, I don't know if this is just everyone wants to be each other and it's minimizing costs for shows, but I feel like Steve has lost his edge a little bit, actually, because a lot of the projection shows at all of the Disney parks have basically been the same show for the last decade. And I have to wonder, maybe Steve can be creatively bankrupt.
But how much of that is him, and how much of that is Disney wanting to cut costs and just clone things and not giving him the latitude to fully develop new stuff?
Yeah, I think that's...
And giving him the time that would appropriately need to develop a completely new show for each park.
Stuff like Wishes also doesn't come every day. I think that's something also that I need to recognize here. We can't expect every show to be as brilliant as Wishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is good news, though. Honestly, Disney
hiring anyone is good news, right?
Well, I kind of went on my first proto-Diffendall rant long before I worked here when Happily Ever After debuted. I went on like a long rant on Facebook about how garbage that show was. I never liked Rivers of Light. I watched it when it first came out on YouTube, and I thought it was awful. Epcot Forever just puts me to sleep. I think it's good if they're going to bring these things back in-house.
The only good thing about Epcot Forever was Pete's rant about how much he hated it. Because I've never actually heard Pete rant about anything. He's such a happy person, and he was so angry. That was the only good thing.
That was something I was missing out on. Because last year I was supposed to come to Disney World in May, and I told Pete I was going to make him watch Epcot Forever with me, just so that I could listen to him rant on the way out at the end of the day.
It's the funniest thing. It's the absolute funniest thing. He's one of those people I can't imagine angry ever, and he hates it so much. Very much.
You think Pete's rant about Epcot Forever was bad? I was standing next to Don Dorsey for the first ever Epcot Forever show. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, I'll bet that was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Anyway, I've heard a few short tidbits of Don's opinions on Epcot Forever, and they're actually pretty interesting.
Anyway, so we'll see what happens with that, but I mean, number one, Disney hiring anybody is a good thing, and hiring someone in a position for fireworks that is something that is sorely lacking at Walt Disney World is a good thing. So I don't see any downside to this, obviously, unless they buy someone, or unless they hire someone who, is a robot and just does what JPEG wants for the least amount of cost, and then the shows turn out like crap. That would be a problem. But at the point, I'm cautiously optimistic right now, so we'll see what happens. All right, our third topic for today, and then, so we're going to do the third topic, and then we're going to do the Say Something Nice segment at the end. I don't know if you guys have all done the Say Something Nice segment at the end.
No.
I haven't.
But we have, everybody, we
say
go
something
around.
nice?
Heather's like, you want me to say something nice? What's wrong with you?
God.
I go away for a couple of weeks and come back, and this is what's happening?
You don't have
you haven't had me on the show a lot lately, and you're coming out and making me be positive about things. What?
I'm kidding. I'm in a good mood tonight. I can be nice.
You you just have to say something that's positive about whatever in the past week or whatever. So it doesn't have to be like Spencer. You could be like, I went to Tokyo Disney Sea and I got a gyoza dog and it was the best one I've had in a couple of months. Like, it can be as simple and pointless as that. It just has to be positive. And so that's all. That it can obviously be much more in depth than that.
Is that so?
But that's all it has to be. It just has to be positive, because otherwise too many people call the show Depressing Issues, and I don't like that. So, but before then, so that gives you time. That gives you. Is that the first you guys have heard of that?
No, I've heard it many times. It's just so true.
So funny.
I know.
I've heard it so many times. It's just so true that I can't help laughing every time I hear.
It's been a rough year, though.
I mean, honestly, the Disneyland expansion is pretty positive.
The timing of starting this show could not have been worse, because this show started when the parks closed, and ever since then, it's just been bad news one after the other.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, tonight was a pretty positive show. The Disneyland expansion is exciting. None of us are angry or upset about it. I think the concept art is a little weird, but that's exciting overall. The hiring of a fireworks guy, that's exciting.
That's exciting.
And then this third topic, the facial recognition. That's exciting to me, too. Maybe some of you are not as excited about me as facial recognition. But to give the background, so Disney started a test at the Magic Kingdom earlier this week, where instead of just going through and scanning your Magic Band and that's it, because you can't put your finger on the finger scanner, they have facial recognition cameras now. And so I think, to me, this is a positive for one simple reason. Those finger scanners sucked, right? Like, I railed about the finger scanners forever. And when we started this show, I said the best thing that happened with the coronavirus is that they got rid of the finger scanners, because that slowed park entry so horrendously so much of the time when you tried to have a 2-year-old put their finger on the finger scanner. So park entrance goes so much faster now than it did before, because they don't use the finger scanners. And so, obviously, the finger scanners served a purpose. And not being able to use the finger scanners means that there's some purpose that they serve that Disney is not taking advantage of now. And that was the reselling or trading or giving away of park admission, right? Because at this point now, you can sort of give your park ticket to somebody else and they can use it to get in the park. And there's not really anything the cast member can do on the other end, because there's no finger scan to blink red and them to ask to see your ID or whatnot. So, I'm glad they got rid of the finger scanners, but I realized that there was a purpose. And it seems to me like this facial recognition thing is the replacement idea for the finger scanners that essentially makes them touchless. And I remember talking a long time ago when we talked about touchless finger scanning technology, and there were things where instead of touching the finger, you hold your hand like an inch above the glass, and it takes a picture of your hand instead of touching it, and we talked about things like that. But clearly and obviously, facial recognition is kind of an obvious application for this. We also talked about just having your picture on the pass, so they can look at the pass and look at you and see that your picture is the same as the picture on the pass to verify that it's your pass.
That doesn't solve Magic Bands, though.
It doesn't solve Magic Bands, but they could put the picture in the system, and the picture could show up on the screen of the cast member like it did at Disneyland for years and years and years and years and years before now.
Yeah.
you know,
Fancy.
Disneyland at
I
Disneyland at
actually-
one point had your picture on your pass, but then when they got the computer screens at the turnstiles, your picture didn't need to be on the pass. It just popped up on the screen, and the cast member just looked at you and looked at the picture and made sure that it was you, and didn't have to stop the whole line and didn't have to ask for photo ID. And it could work the same way at cash registers, so you don't have to get out your photo ID to get your annual pass holder discount. And I've ranted and raved on and on about this for a long, long time. So go ahead, Spencer.
No, I mean, this is actually a conversation I can contribute to as I try to carefully cover like the personal information. Because on our APs here in Tokyo, as I cover the QR code and the number, there's a picture on it. And yeah, I don't want to show the number, even though I already got my refund. So when you enter the parks in Tokyo, at Disneyland, when they redid the turnstiles last year and the year before, they installed face scanners. So they make you, when you would enter with your AP, you'd scan and then look down at the camera, and it would like look at your face, match it with the picture they take when you get your pass, and it would let you in. And it worked pretty well, actually. I think I only had a problem with it once in the year before the parks closed, because I don't wear sunglasses or a mask or anything in normal times. So I mean, we've already seen this in Japan, at Tokyo Disneyland. It works fantastically, and if they use the same technology, this will be a slam dunk. I think it makes entry go so much faster. You don't have to have the cast member check the picture at Disneyland anymore. You don't have to scan the fingerprint, I guess, at Disney World. Obviously, facial recognition is going to be expensive, and there's privacy concerns about data security and whether everything will be stored in an encrypted file form and it can't be hacked or leaked on accident.
Well, and so
stuff like that.
Here's what the Disney signage says, is that they don't actually store a picture of your face. They convert it through some algorithm to a number, and they store the number. So that's what they did with your fingerprints too, obviously, is that they never stored your fingerprints. They converted them to a number, and they stored the number, and then if you rescan and the number is the same or close enough, then it's a match. So the question is, you know, the facial scan, you can adjust the level of confidence in the system so that you know, if your facial scan the first time is a number and the second time is a number that's 10 off, you know, you can either set the system to allow for that differential or reject it. And so Disney can adjust the system as necessary, and I think they have to with masks, right? Because obviously I could come in wearing a blue mask one day and a green mask the other day, and that's really going to, you know, screw up the system. Honestly, I don't think this system is designed to cope with masks at all. I think right now it's a trial for the system, and it's not actually going to go into widespread use until masks are no longer required. Because everyone's
even
asking,
here. There's a sign on the little electric billboards that says if you're wearing sunglasses or a mask, you had to pull them down or take them off in order to get your face scanned for the AP. It'll be the same situation in the U.S., I think.
Or they won't implement it until there's no mask requirement
until afterwards.
Anymore. Yeah, I think
that works too.
I think people are very, very leery about pulling down masks for face scans, right? Like that just seems to be
as congested as it gets at the turnstiles. Like it's different. Like if you're open and you have room, but everybody bottlenecks right there.
right.
So yeah, I don't think people would be comfortable with that.
No,
and
I
it
mean,
would
like,
also, I guess, it also would be hypocritical of them to say you can pull down your mask to take your face scan, but you can't pull down your mask to take pictures at the park.
Yeah. What did you say, Heather?
I heard that it doesn't work with your ears, that you have to take your ears off if you're wearing...
Oh, probably. That's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, and the other... So, like, when you go through TSA security airports, they ask you to pull your mask down. That's so they can match the picture on your photo ID with your face, because they can't really do that well with a mask. Somebody in the chat says DCL takes your picture at check-in, and Castro referencing it at boarding, which is absolutely the case. That's why you can leave the ship with just your key to the world card, and because you're
most places, not your passport.
Right. You don't need.
And even when you're charging things on the ships,
right?
Most cruise lines do that. Yeah.
Right, and so so on the Disney Cruise Line, the pictures pop up on the screen whenever you scan your key to the world card on the Disney Cruise Line, and that happens on most cruise lines too, as Ashley said. And so, but I don't think this system. And people were saying, well, how come Apple and Face ID doesn't work with masks, but this Disney system can? I don't think it can. I think this is just like a trial, and it's really just a trial of the technology, and to get people used to it. It's a test of people more than a test of.
Well, and there's certain logistics that I'm sure that they have to figure out too, like placement and what makes the most sense for getting people through the queue effectively,
and how much more efficient it is. I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of things that need to be worked out with this system before the system actually works, right? So getting people accustomed to it, getting them to understand what to do in the line, seeing how much more efficient it pushes the line through, making sure the scanner is positioned at a place that is, good for most people if they're taller or shorter or whatever. I think they're getting all that worked out regardless of the masks.
I also just remember this too. When I go to Universal, there's also a camera that's about, because I'm 5'11", so there's a camera that's about at my shoulder height or so, where when you come into park for the first time with an AP, they take your picture. There's obviously many different ways and many different levels of efficiency to implement facial scanning. At Disney Sea, where they still have the old turnstiles, and at USJ, they have to check your picture manually, and it creates a huge bottleneck when you have a bunch of APs going through, because that takes 5-6 seconds for them to look up, pull your mask down, and then they let you in. If they can figure it out where it's all automated, like the new turnstiles at Tokyo Disneyland, it'll be basically no extra time, maybe an extra half a second for every guest, which is going to be probably still more efficient than however long it took when a fingerprint scan broke, 10, 15, 30 seconds, a minute,
is a finger, the finger scans, if the finger scans worked well and people knew how to do it, it was quick. The problem was that rarely happened. And so you either had kids that the finger scans didn't work, or you had problems one way or the other with the system.
People would forget which finger they used to set it up.
And so that's the problem, is that all this needs to do is be quicker than the finger scans. And I think it almost can't not be, right? Like, the standing there and looking at the camera for half a second has got to be quicker than putting your finger on the scanner, and the system will spit back a yes or no answer 100 times quicker than it will take to try to figure out whatever. Even redo your finger will be it'll be quicker to do the facial scan than it will be to rescan your finger a second time.
Especially if they have the system for verification being automated rather than having each cast member manually check a face scan. If they have it be automated, you still have someone there, but if they have it mostly be an automatic system where you get admission just automatically, it'll be a huge time saver.
Yeah,
I think facial recognition technology is probably there at this point where Disney could implement an automatic system that's mostly efficient for not a lot of money.
So if you, there's a system in place that's been around for a number of years now called Clear. It's a private company that runs Clear, but they have it at the Orlando airport and a number of other airports where instead of TSA looking at your driver's license to verify your identity. You just go to the Clear kiosk, and it does a facial scan and verifies your identity. And then you go up to the the X-ray machine. So you bypass that TSA ID check at the airport when you use the Clear system. And the Clear system was designed and marketed to be able to be used for all kinds of things. So, for instance, ticketing at large-scale events like concerts or sporting events or whatever. If there are enough people who have their picture in the Clear system, and there's a dedicated Clear lane at the entrance to a stadium, then you just go through that line instead of the manual line, and it's much quicker. That's the whole idea behind Clear, and I know that they have also started using it for Hertz rental cars. So when you leave the parking garage with a Hertz rental car, instead of going to the booth with the person in it that looks at your license, you just do a Clear scan, and it verifies your identity. So,
and
it certainly
if they use a system like that already has a working database, then they wouldn't even have to fuss as much with, come over here if you want to register for the Clear system to get into the Disney parks faster. It could be, you already did it at the airport. Now you're at Disney World.
That's the thing, is that, and the whole point of the Clear system is that you register once and then you can use it anywhere it exists. The problem is that I think the rollout of the Clear system hasn't been as quick as they had hoped, and it doesn't exist in a lot of places other than airports right now. Well,
think about it. Think how most people who come to Disney World, they're going to fly. If it's mostly a thing at airports, then you sign up when you're at the airport, you get it when you're at Disney World. They could put up a sign, if you're going to Disney World, you should sign up for the Clear system kind of thing at the airport.
Yeah, exactly. And you sign up once and you're done. So, I mean, that would be ideal. But in any case, I think there's complaints of privacy and this and that and everything, and I don't want to get into that because a lot of those people are crazy, and I don't really want to deal with the chat.
I will say, just on that really quickly, if they don't want to go through automated facial recognition, there should be like a single line, just one, where you have a cast member manually check a photo.
That's right, and that line will be 700,000 people long, and you have the option to opt out, but yeah, you have to go. It takes you an extra hour if you want to opt out.
There should be an option. It couldn't be as inconvenient as Disney wants to make it, but there should be an option to opt out.
Well, and I think there will be. I think there will be. I think the problem with this in this instance is that the privacy concerns and the facial recognition concerns, and the reason I think everybody, some people get up in arms about this, and I know the chat's already going nuts. The point that I'm trying to make is that Disney is not storing a picture of your face, right? They weren't storing your fingerprint either. And so they're taking a picture of your face and converting it to a number that they store in an internal database. That number is not anything private about you. It's just a number, right? And so there's no way to link that number to you except in Disney's database. And so, therefore, there's not really any privacy concerns because no one else can generate that same number. Disney has the system set up, and so they generate the number and match it to what's in their database. It's not like they can sell that number to the government and the government can track you wherever you go. I mean, Disney obviously already tracks you wherever you go with your Magic Band. That is tied much more to your identity, right? So if you're not concerned about a Magic Band and your identity and Disney knowing where you are in the parks every time you touch your Magic Band to a FastPass touch point, there's no reason to be concerned about facial recognition to enter the park. And so that's the point, is that you don't have to get all up in arms about facial recognition technology to enter the park, because Disney already knows enough about you as it is, and Disney's not storing a picture of your face.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and even if they were, I'm personally of the belief I personally feel far more comfortable, even if they were storing a copy of it, having a copy of a picture of me versus my fingerprint. I don't know, but that's just my humble opinion. Because at least in this day and age, like, we all have social media. There are photos of me floating out there all over the internet already.
Wait, and even if there's not, let me take a screen capture right now. Boom, there we go. Now there is. Now there is.
You know what I mean? Like, in this day of, like, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all of these things where people are constantly posting pictures of themselves and their family and even their kids in a lot of cases, like,
I mean, there's nut jobs out there. There's nut jobs out there posting pictures of their vaccine cards, right? Like, that is your full name on it. So
exactly. So
on the one hand,
why Disney, who again privately, I promise you, in your little file that's linked to your Magic Band, they have like on-ride photos and things of you already in your like record. So why? That's what I don't understand. I don't understand the law.
And so that's what I'm saying.
Maker.
About this,
memory
maker. So they're actually storing photos of you in Memory Maker. Yeah. So why is this so much different?
I'm also quite sure that they take scans when you're shopping or when you're eating to associate, you know, what people are buying and how much you're spending, so that they could use that marketing data. I'm sure that's going on.
Without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are cameras quite literally all over the parks that we don't even see. So, I mean, now granted, they're for security and, like, reuniting lost children and to prevent shoplifting and things like that for the most part.
But regardless, if Disney wants your picture, they have it, right? And so doing a facial scan at the entrance is not giving up any privacy any more than you already have by going to a Disney park. And that's my point about these people that are up in arms and crazy about privacy issues with facial recognition to get in the park, because they've already lost any privacy of their face by being in the park. So you have to think about it in a logical fashion, right? Like, what about in the dark tunnel on the People Mover?
Being the word.
Logical being the word. Half the world isn't logical is the problem.
I mean, if you're concerned about security, don't take the third-party quiz about what kind of cat you look like on Facebook. I mean, it's...
And don't go to a Disney park where there's cameras all over the place. Right?
I mean,
don't go outside where there's cameras all over.
Not even just our people, but I mean, there are other people like blogging and things and taking other family photos. Like, again, you're getting your picture taken some way, some shape, some form.
And it's in the terms and conditions. It's in the terms and conditions on your pass that says by using this pass, you agree that your picture may be used by Disney basically anytime they want.
Yeah.
So
like I said, I'm actually excited for this. I'm good for this. Like, I like
That's my point.
Both for expediency and the fact that I'm far more comfortable with them having pictures of me, which they already have, versus my fingerprint. I don't know what somebody can do by hacking my fingerprint, but a picture is something they already have. So why not?
Heather,
it's a lot easier to get a picture of your face than
Brandy in the chat says, "What if the cat is a really cute one?"
Then take the quiz. It's worth it.
Take the quiz. I always take the quiz. I want to know that I look like a cat sitting at a table with a bottle of wine.
So I'll tell you though, having already been through facial recognition, if they implement it right, this is going to be fantastic, I think, for Disney World. And I hope they bring it to Disneyland too.
I hope so too. Absolutely. 100%.
And I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're testing it at Disney World first, only because
it's
especially
open?
with the amount. Well, it's open and with the amount of tourists that you get versus like if you're going to have a place that there's hang-ups and training, you hammer out all the kinks with the tourists, and then you know exactly what to do to train the locals, and then it's not a problem.
Yep, absolutely. So again, I think this is a positive development. I don't think there's really any downside to it compared to anything else that you go through at a Disney park. There's absolutely zero privacy concerns, and maybe less privacy concerns than your fingerprint, even though I think they turn that to a number and store it too, so it's really not your fingerprint.
And
except when
with
they
this
store your whole
and
vacation in your face instead of your magic band.
I think
into
this
your
and
reservation.
what is it? What is it? Magic Mobile? Is that what it's called?
Mobile Magic.
This and Mobile Magic. Whatever. I couldn't remember what order it's in because
Wait,
the other one
what's
is that
Mobile
Verizon
Magic?
app for like 10 years ago. They're gonna
was
let you
Mobile
put your
Magic.
ticket.
Actually,
They're gonna
you
let you put
didn't
your
watch
ticket
the
on your
show
phone.
last week, did you?
No, I was sick last
Read the
Last-
site. Watch
last
the
week-
show.
Last week we talked about essentially this thing called Mobile Magic that is replacing magic bands with your phone.
Oh, right. Okay.
So,
yeah, I knew about
basically, they're
that.
gonna
I
let
just
you
didn't know
put
what
your
that was
ticket-
called.
They're gonna let you
I'm
put
not
your
here for
ticket on
that.
Apple Pay, which I already use my transit card in Japan on my Apple Watch. So if I could just make my Apple Watch my Magic Band, that's great. Put this and facial
That's
recognition
smart.
together. I think it's going to be a lot smoother of an experience
Sure.
to get into the park
It's cute,
in the next
but I love the
in the coming
magic
years.
band.
That's a good point.
Well,
Spencer,
yeah,
'cause
but
I
not
have
everyone wants to
been-
spend
I've not been on
30
board.
dollars on a Magic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Sorry.
now
I don't
that
want the
they're not
magic
giving
bands to go
away
away
for
'cause
free
I
anymore.
purposely put my phone away when I.
Yeah, right?
That's, why
That's
I
what- and
get
that's what we
Memory
said.
Maker. Take my picture. Yeah, on my
I
phone.
There's-
the Magic
there's
Band is so
actually-
much more convenient than your phone.
There's actually
Yes.
hang on, because there's actually a feature. It's not really used in America. It's used in Japan. It's called Express Transit on your phone or your Apple Watch. And what it is basically you can designate one card that you can just touch your watch or your phone to, and it'll read automatically without you having to unlock it. So when I go to the train, I don't have to like unlock my phone to pull up. It just is my balance. But you don't have to unlock my phone to pull up my transit card. I just touch it at the turnstile and it lets me in. And if they implement the
Apple
same
Pay.
technology with Magic Mobile, it is Apple Pay, yeah. It's like an extension of Apple Pay. But if they implement the same technology with Magic Bands, then you won't have to like unlock your phone and do Face ID or whatever. You can just touch your phone to the touch point or
Right.
touch your watch to the touch point, and it'll let you in.
And the
Which
reason
in
that
theory seems great, but what happens if if you're using your phone for everything because what happens if your phone dies and you're trying to park
fuel
out and
rods.
your phone's dead?
that's the problem, right? And that's why I like Magic Bands better than the
Because-
phone.
So
Exactly, because here's the thing. In theory, most people would be
Apple-
smart and say, okay, I need to keep my phone charged because that's my park ticket and my room key and all this other jazz.
And your fast
And that may work
passes.
other
So-
places. But here in America, we have seen, because fuel rods are a thing, that does not always happen. And people don't bring a backup plan. And then they just throw a hissy fit at the turnstiles.
Yeah.
So I don't think Magic
Apple
Bands
has
should
already
go away.
solved this problem. Apple has actually already
How?
solved this problem. I think starting in the iPhone, it was either the iPhone 11 or the iPhone 12, and I think it was the Watch 5. There's like a separate battery that powers your Express Transit thing for up to 5 hours after your phone dies. So if your phone dies while you're at the park, you can still touch your Express Transit card, which your ticket would be registered under, I think for 3 to 5 hours after your phone dies. Something like that.
Right. And or the Apple Watch has a battery that generally lasts much longer than your phone.
Yeah, that too.
Which works very nicely. And when the other nice thing about not having to unlock your phone, is that it's quicker, right? And a lot of this is all about getting through the turnstiles quicker, so there's not a giant lineup of people.
You always know where your phone is. You're not always going to know where your key to the world card is.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
But do they
You
have?
especially will know where your watch is.
Does that
But I
Apple
don't
Watch
look at my phone on vacation.
tech work here in America?
Sure it does.
Yeah,
the thing?
it's just
Okay. I don't
there
use
just
Apple
hasn't been a
Wallet, so I don't know.
there just hasn't been a system to implement transit cards in the U.S. because of fragmentation and lots of other problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does work in the U.S. I think they're testing it on the New York City subway right now. It could work with magic bands easily. It's the same type. It's the same technology as you find in a garden variety transit card.
Yep, for sure.
All right,
Why
fair
can't
enough.
they just put your picture in your My Disney Experience account, and then when you doink your magic band, your face pops up?
I mean, ideally, they would just use facial recognition, and you don't have to touch any magic band to anything, right? Like,
I
the
guess that's
camera
the whole thing,
sees
is no
you
touch, no
coming,
touch.
and it knows you have a ticket. Boom, you're done. That's it.
I guess, but then how would you'd have to you'd have to put a facial scan on every single door at the resort, and it would.
No,
take
I
too
just
much
mean for
effort.
theme park admission.
No,
I
just
don't mean
for
at the
the park.
resorts.
Oh.
I just mean for.
What about all those people who, they charge their meals, the DDP
Well, no,
is
you
on...
would use the magic bands for that. I'm talking about only
Oh.
to speed up the entrance process
Just
at
to
the
make it
turnstiles.
faster.
Okay.
You don't need to
Okay.
touch anything, right? Like anywhere where
Okay.
it's not a huge time saver doesn't need to happen. So, like if the slowest point of checking out at the cashier is not you tapping your magic band to pay, so it wouldn't really matter there. But certainly the slowest point of entering the park is where you have to stop and touch your magic band. So if they just had facial recognition there and it knew you had a ticket, then you don't need to stop or touch anything.
I guess.
Anyway, all right. We've got a couple minutes left, so we're going to go around and say a positive thing, even though I think this whole show was a very positive show overall. But we'll start with you, Heather.
Oh,
You had 10 minutes to think about it. I warned you.
oh my gosh, thinking. So something very positive this week. I have two things that are very positive. One being that it was announced that California is going to have everyone eligible for vaccines by the 15th, which means that I'll be ready to go to Disneyland when it's time to open. And also, I started to do my plotting and planning for all of the our dining reservations for our October trip to Walt Disney World. So that was very positive and made me happy.
All
Is
right.
it supposed to be nicer?
No, that's good. It's very exciting. COVID vaccinations are always exciting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ashley. You're up next.
Oh, I'm next. Okay. I am happy that the city of Anaheim and Disneyland, at least for the time being, appear to be getting along and playing nice. And I am very excited that I have convinced my husband that we're doing a Peter Pan themed nursery. So that was a great victory. So yeah,
fun.
those are my two positive Disney things this week.
All right, Spencer. You're up.
So in case you don't read WDWNT.com, first of all, you should. I'm very proud of what I write, and I guess people in Florida also write news, I guess. I don't know. Anyway,
Shut up, Spencer.
Hey, only Tom gets to say that, not you. You have to be the nice one.
Yeah, okay.
So earlier this week, there was a leak accidentally on the Tokyo Disney Resort website. They said that parades were supposed to come back over the weekend, and then shows are supposed to come back on the 1st. Obviously, parades didn't come back, which I'm sad about, but they keep testing them. And people keep seeing through the turnstiles at Disneyland, you can see them testing Dreaming Up before the park opens. And people heard the Dreamlights music a couple weeks ago. There's been social distancing markers installed outside of all the theaters. So our shows are on the way back. And I'm so happy because for me, I haven't felt compelled to go back to Disney over and over and over again. But now if we're bringing back Big Band Beat and Dreaming Up and Dreamlights especially, and on top of that, they want to bring back Usatama on the Run for spring. I love Usatama on the Run. I thought it was dead, so I get another
Wasn't
year of
supposed to
that.
come back.
Great. No, it was never supposed to come back. It was dead. But they're bringing it back, apparently. And they want to do the new Mickey's Magical Music World in the Fantasyland Forest Theater soon, too. There's social distancing markers there. So it didn't come to pass exactly as they kind of accidentally leaked. But it seems to be pretty soon we'll have our entertainment back. I'm really excited about that. That's my positive for the week.
That's very positive.
All right. Very good, Spencer. My positive for the week is that I haven't heard nighttime parade music in the Magic Kingdom for what seems like forever. Oh, wait. That's not positive.
Oh, wait. Wait. I have a second positive. Can I add?
Good, because I don't have one.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
Wow.
So this is just me. I know other people have opinions on this. I think this is a good thing. I've seen a few opinions about this on Twitter, though. A couple weeks ago, the Oriental Land Company started changing all of the in-park announcements to be more inclusive. So instead of saying ladies and gentlemen, they say welcome everyone to Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea. I think that's a great change. And I'm also surprised that we're the first ones to do it.
Yeah,
because
right?
when I think progressive at the Disney parks, I don't think of the Oriental Land Company, honestly. But I still think it's a positive decision to make more guests feel welcome. I'm happy about that. It's going to take my brain some time to adjust, but it's a good news. It's a good thing, I think.
See, Jason, that was positive.
That was positive. Yeah, I'm surprised that
I took care of your positive for you.
My guess is that was very likely going to happen in California, except they haven't opened yet.
Probably.
Yeah, California.
Because I can't imagine something like that happening in Tokyo before it happens in California. But anyway, all right. I'll come up with something positive. Give me 10 or 15 minutes to think about it. I think all of our news tonight was positive. Honestly, I think the Disneyland expansion, any expansion at any Disney park anywhere is a positive thing. I think the hiring of, like I said, Disney hiring anyone is a positive thing. And then the facial scanning thing, I said, is a positive thing. So I'm happy and excited that Pressing Issues was really all positive this week. And, we had some little nitpicks about the concept art at the Disneyland thing. But that's probably just because they threw it together cheaply and put, the ropes course from Shanghai in there. And as much as I'd love to see the ropes course at Shanghai come stateside because it's a lot of fun, I think I'll end up going to Shanghai before it ever makes its way over here. Even though I don't have any plans for going to Shanghai for a long time.
I'll come with you. I want to go to Shanghai. I've never been.
Well, next
Mighty
time I
Ducks
go,
came
you
out
can
this
meet
week.
me.
That's a positive.
What's that?
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks came out this week. That's a positive. I'm excited about that series. Yeah. Nice things.
Yeah, so there you go. I think did Emma put it in the chat? One of Shannon put it in the chat. Go to carouselofproducts.com and get your Pressing Issues sticker and stick it wherever you want so people see it and ask you what is Pressing Issues, and then you can tell them how every Sunday night you spend 2 hours listening to people bitch and moan about Disney stuff. And there you go.
Can we make a second sticker that has D clumsily written in front of the Pressing Issues logo, so it says Depressing Issues like it's graffitied on?
Shannon also reminded people to go to patreon.com/WDWNT to join WIGS, and if you join at the $7 level, you get access to all of our podcast archives, including the Christmas podcast parade, where you can hear me sing Tomorrow's Child from Spaceship Earth and other Epcot tunes. You weren't here, Spencer.
Worth it.
We were trying to waste time while you
Totally
got your
worth
technical issues fixed, and so you weren't here when we talked about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there we go. Stay tuned. So no show next week because of Easter. And stay tuned the week after that. We'll probably do news, which will be April April 7th. No, April 7th is Easter. There's no show. April 14th will be a news show because we'll have 2 weeks worth of news. April 21st is what I'm going to tentatively... Actually, sorry. Not April. I'm looking at the wrong March. April 4th is Easter. No show. April 11th is going to be a news show because there'll have to be something worth talking about after 2 weeks to talk about. April 18th is what I'm going to say is tentatively planned to be our DVC focus show, where we talk all about DVC. We're going to have at least 4. We might actually end up with 6 people on if everybody who owns DVC on the Pressing Issues panels wants to come on. We're just going to talk about DVC all night, answer all your questions about DVC, talk about DVC speculation, talk about what what's happening with Reflections Lakeside Lodge. Yes, by that time I will have had all of my Easter chocolate. Also,
Chocolate.
Hershey Park opens this Friday. And so that means the Hershey Park meetups are possible soon. I don't know when. But I'm going to figure out a date. I promise by the time we come back in 2 weeks, I'll have a date for the Hershey Park meetup so we can all go to Hershey Park and get some chocolate.
God, please stop saying it like that.
Spencer, you said you'd like to hear me talk. And so
No, it's just I
about
can't. No.
Hershey Park
It's the fact
and go
that
to Chocolate
I
World.
uncontrollably laugh.
Don't you
I
want to go to?
uncontrollably laugh when you say it like that. I can't.
I would take you to Hershey Park, and we could go on Chocolate World.
It's cute.
Chocolate World?
No.
Yeah.
No. It's not like a bad thing the way that he says it, I promise. It's just funny because
Well,
it's
that's
weird
everybody
for
in the
me.
chat
That's
makes
the
fun of
only
me, too.
reason.
It's so northeastern. It's perfect.
Yeah. No, Hershey Park is fantastic. Spencer, if you ever come here, I'll take you to Hershey Park, and I'll take you to Knoebels, because those are both great places. And we'll go to Chocolate World, and I will eat chocolate. And, hey, maybe we'll do a live stream. Wouldn't that be the bee's knees, to do a live stream from Hershey Park on the WDWNT Entertainment Channel? That idea just came into my mind.
Oh, that has to happen.
I mean, Spencer, if they want to see you open a package of deodorant from FedEx, I can't imagine that they're not going to want to see me eat chocolate at Chocolate World at Hershey Park. So, anyway. And then we'll go to Kennywood. Yeah, I want to go to Kennywood, too, but that's the furthest for me. Anyway, so if you want to watch Spike the Bee, just rewind to the beginning of the show because we played it at the very beginning. Brian's volunteering to hold the gimbal at the live stream at Hershey Park. So yeah, there we go. That's all the business, I think.
All the business.
All the business to cover for the next couple of weeks. Hit that like button before you sign off for tonight. But have a good night. Play it again. You guys with this Spike, fine. I'm going to play Spike the Bee as our sign-off music because you guys are nuts with this Spike the Bee.
It's wonderful.
It's the greatest thing ever. It's the greatest thing ever until you go back and listen to me sing Tomorrow's Child. No, I'm just kidding. That's
Very
the worst
true.
thing ever. There's no video to it either. We should go back and put video to all those songs that we did. I'll play Spike the Bee, but this is signing off. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit the like button, subscribe. Stay tuned to WWNT.com for all of your news. And have a great night. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
When I find myself at Flower and Garden, looking for some food to eat, I gotta get a spork with Spike the Bee. 58 pallets of unsold units standing right in front of me. Here for his 5th straight festival, Spike the Bee. Spike the bee, spike the bee, spike the bee, spike the bee. Perfect for any food type, spike the bee. And while it's good for soup and chili, he's also perfect for poutine and Tupelo honey spoon bread, spike the bee. Plastic forks and spoons are wasteful, and they can't ever hope to be that versatile festival flatware, spike the bee. Spike the bee, spike the bee, spike the bee, yeah, spike the bee. For blood orange margaritas, spike the bee.
How do you eat that with a spork?
Spike the bee, spike the bee, spike the bee, yeah, spike the bee. Disney hopes you'll finally purchase, spike the bee.